Here are 6 social issues in Taiwan that we've covered on our show that you should know about. You can find the full episodes and features in the description below. And if you think there are any other issues we should be paying attention to, let us know in the comments.
This is one of the most expensive neighborhoods in all of Taiwan. Hemmed in by glistening corporate headquarters and malls filled with luxury shops, it is a picture of the economic boom Taiwan has experienced over the past few years. But just like the luxury homes on this leafy boulevard, not everyone can afford to live in this version of Taiwan. Just on the other side of Taipei, Wanhua is a different story. It's the most historic and also the poorest part of the capital. There are more low-income households here than in any other district in the country. Brian Hu is a local resident and the founder of New Bloom, an online magazine covering activism and youth politics in Taiwan.
It's where the city started, but has been left behind by development. And so despite being the origin of the city, development eventually moved north towards Dadaocheng and eastward towards the East District, towards Xinyi, and so forth. So the majority of the homeless population in Taipei is located in Wanhua.
Wealth disparity and economic stagnation are increasingly worrying problems, with the benefits of economic growth not equally distributed across the population.
That there is a sense of inequality in society, that, for example, young people are not making enough to be able to afford homes, that you have to not eat or drink for 15 years to afford a home in Taipei. The wealth that is gained by society does not trickle down to everybody, and so it stays in the upper echelons. Even when companies are making money, even when Taiwan has growing exports and so forth, Taiwan was less affected by COVID, and therefore its economy did much better. And so in spite of that, the public does not feel it.
Taiwan bumped up its minimum wage by just over 4% this year.
Young people in Taiwan are not receiving the type of compensation and lives that they deserve to live, even though they work hard. They work harder than anybody I've ever met. I mean, the work culture here is extreme in many ways. And in spite of that, they are just simply not receiving the types of wages that they should.
Ahead of the 77th anniversary of the 228 incident here in Taiwan, this office building of Taiwan's cabinet has been designated as a site of historical injustice. The building, which was the former site of the office of the Taiwan Provincial Administration, was one of many sites around Taiwan where military police fired on anti-government civilians in what became known as the 228 incident. It's one of dozens of recognized sites of historical injustice around the country, part of ongoing efforts to recognize atrocities committed not so long ago in Taiwan's past, and pay homage to the victims of government-sanctioned violence and oppression during the 228 incident and martial law period, which left thousands dead. Taiwan's premier said the new designation will serve as a reminder of Taiwan's struggles to achieve democracy.
228 incident can be properly considered as the founding event or founding incident of the imaginary of Taiwan's self-consciousness. And in the early years of Taiwan's democratization, it was the 228 incident that was first being raised by the opposition elites as an issue that they requested the KMT government to deal with, an issue of remembrance. So there was a 228 peace movement that asked the government to go back and start to remember that this incident, the memory of which has been suppressed for decades.
I would say the racism and the discrimination against the Southeastern migrant workers is very common, and it's deep inside the system and the culture. But sadly, it's not well perceived and not well self-criticized by the Taiwanese society. Even though there are legal protections over the migrant workers, but there are so many restrictions that's only for the migrants. For example, the migrants, they are not entitled to transfer freely. They cannot really transfer as they want. If it needs to be agreed by their employer, or they have to complain with very valid reason. or accusation against their employers or brokers, and that takes a lot of efforts. And also that they have to stay with the employer, or they have to stay in the place assigned by the employer. Especially for the caretakers, they have to stay with the patient, and most of the time they don't even have their own room.
这种错误自白，不管是台湾也好，美国、日本，我们都可以看到，它其实是在刑事司法里面很重要的一个冤错案成因。那错误自白在早期，台湾的讯问被告还没有很完全的这种规范，要全程录音。早年甚至警方刑求对这种重大刑事案件刑求是比较常见的情况下面，很常出现。那晚近大约2000年之后，我们确实比较少看到错误自白，但还有一个类型也必须被提出的，就是科学证据的瑕疵。那因为科学证据它其实是法院赖以为审判的重要证据，法官会相信专家嘛，相信这些科学所说的话，认为人的证词也许前后反复，但科学不会说谎。但科学证据日新月异，现在的角度，我们去理解过往的科学，可能就知道说其实之前并不是这么严谨。其中有一点像是测谎，台湾现在还有在使用测谎证据，但对于测谎的理解，现在越来越谨慎了。早年的很多测谎证据可能是有瑕疵的，那包括像 DNA 技术也是日益进步，所以我们透过新的科学可以去找到原来当初之所以误判，其实是当年使用的科学并不是真的那么科学。
So pure poverty, in terms of what With Red believes in, we refer pure poverty as a social phenomenon to have lack of access to period products and wash facilities to manage their period. And predominantly it's due to financial constraints, but it can be influenced by a lot of different other factors, such as infrastructures or lack of awareness and education, so on. And here comes a way bigger topic, which is period stigma, which is very intertwined with period poverty, and it makes it even more difficult to eliminate. And period equity for us means menstruation no longer being a barrier to opportunities, choices, or well-being. If you imagine a world where period equity is a reality for all, that basically means no one will ever be discriminated against menstruation. All of us, everybody around the world has access to comprehensive and gender-inclusive period education, and people all have access to sufficient period products, and period products are available in public places, etc., etc.
Thanks for watching to the end. Have you been affected by any of these issues? Let us know in the comments below.